Chapter 22 Time. Zulu didn't call her mother or father for weeks while at MIT. Instead, every day she met with Hugo, Uchenna, and Marcy. She learned how to put her exos on while in her wheelchair. Then she learned how to stand up from the chair on her own. When they were working with the exos, she was working out. Hugo didn't stick around for this part since he had other meetings to attend and research to do. Uchenna had classes to teach. Marcy was the one who stayed while Zulu straightened her abdominal muscles, back, chest, and arms. She never felt so sore in her life. You're already in decent shape, so a lot of the soreness is from new muscle use, Marcy said. Drink your water, soak in your bath, and keep at it. Soon it'll fade away. You'll realize you're stronger and better with the exos. Zulu couldn't wait for that part to kick in. She was in such pain now that even with her wheelchair, wheeling her chair was a struggle. After a particularly rough session, she wheeled back to her hotel room and grabbed a bag of sweet potato chips and a Gatorade from the basket of snacks Hugo had sent. Her Yebo app was blinking with a reminder. A few weeks ago, her agent had corralled her into agreeing to take an interview with Rolling Stone magazine. Right on time, her phone started ringing. The reporter took too long introducing himself, and the questions were unimaginative. Zulu lay on her bed and stared at the ceiling as she parroted her prepared answers, the same ones she'd given to dozens of reporters before him. Then he said, "What is it you're up to at MIT? Research for book 2? She only laughed. "You know I'm not going to answer that." "But you are at MIT, right?" she asked. "You're not slated for a speaking gig there. So what are you doing? People just want to know what's up." She skirted the subject by changing topic and ended up saying too much about her family. He got his unique quote in the end. The journalist was good. She slipped under her covers, only planning to lie down for a few minutes before she pulled herself back up to take a shower and brush her teeth. She was asleep within seconds. Zulu had been having strange dreams where far more than her legs was robotic. And in these dreams, she wasn't solar powered like the robots in her book. Her battery always died, always, and there she would remain, frozen in place in some deserted parking lot. Not unlike the setting at the beginning of her novel, with no possibility of anyone finding her. MIT had provided Zulu with a therapist during her time there, and Zulu had spilled all this to him. The therapist hummed and awed and gave her some feedback about facing her insecurities. Afterwards, Zulu felt better, but when she went back to her hotel room that night, the nightmare returned. She awoke feeling uneasy. No therapist she just met was going to solve her issues. The one she had back home for the last 3 years had helped her, but she still had a long way to go. Zulu remained in Cambridge for 1 month. When the time finally came to go home, she could walk pretty well with her exos, though it left her tired after about a half hour. At least she wasn't falling. She said a heartfelt goodbye to Hugo, Marcy, and Uchenna that left her in tears. When she got back to her hotel room, she packed her things and then looked at her phone. She hadn't spoken to her family since the day she left home. This was the longest she'd ever gone without speaking to them. She'd be back in her parents' house soon, so she decided to bite the bullet and call their landline number. Her mother answered. "Zulu!" "Hi, Mom," Zulu said awkwardly. There was a pause and the sound of shuffling. "Zulu Ho," her father said. "How are you? Are you all right?" Zulu smiled. "Yes, Dad, I really am. Why haven't you been calling?" Zulu rolled her eyes, just like her family to forget how this even started. "Because all everyone does is yell at me." She heard her mother, who must have been pressing her ear close to the phone beside her father, say, "Because you're acting like a crazy person. Don't mind your mother right now," her father said. "We are glad to hear from you. And we know how you are doing." Her mother shouted. "Your teacher, Dr. Wagner, has been keeping us updated. You think you can just..." "What?" Zulu screamed. Hugo had been talking to her parents all this time. Who did he think he was? Who did he think she was? An 8-year-old? Amo, her father hissed at her mother. Stop it, you're not helping. I'm not trying to help, she said. I will kill Hugo, Zulu said solemnly. I'm not a child. Jeez, this is so unprofessional. We were the ones who kept calling and calling, her mother said. Then I got his office number. We're your parents, no matter how old you are. Zulu sighed, letting the thought of them harassing Hugo all these weeks sink in. If she knew, what would she have done? At the least, let it distract her. At most, maybe given up. Suddenly, she was glad he had chosen not to say anything. When are you coming home? Her mother asked. Zulu rubbed her forehead. Tomorrow. She answered a few more obligatory questions before hurrying them off the phone. Next, she dialed Mitzi, better to just tear off the Band-Aid. As she waited for him to pick up, she felt her heart begin to pound in her ears. She didn't know what she would say to him. The last day spoken, he had told her not to go to Boston, and she'd hung up on him. She hadn't texted, emailed, or called him since, and he hadn't reached out to her either. He didn't answer. Stung, she threw her phone on her bed. Fuck him, then. But she stayed where she was, looking at her phone for the next 10 minutes. He didn't call back. She got up and continued packing. It didn't help much, but it was something to do. The next day, when the cab came to take her to the airport, she was still feeling agitated and hurt. It didn't help that the driver asked to help her with a wheelchair. An idea popped into her head, and she acted on it. No need to dissect it. She was holding the Exos case in her lap, having planned to take it as a carry-on item on the plane. She pulled out the wand, spoke her own name, and within a minute the case had unfolded itself to become the Exos. The metal moved like a snake, molding around her legs. She stood up and folded her chair, ignoring the driver's wide eyes. Obediently, he took her chair and folded it into the trunk. She walked through the airport just like anyone else. The driver carried her bags as she approached it, ticketing. The airline agent had a copy of her book sitting on the desk next to his computer. He stared at her face, then her Exos, then managed to ask her for an autograph. She gave it, and then she walked on, both the agent and the driver staring after her. She even noticed the driver bring up his phone to take a picture of her, but she had to concentrate on walking, so she tried to ignore him. Getting through the TSA took a good half hour. She had to wait 10 minutes for them to bring another wheelchair for her to sit in, just so she could take off the Exos and go through the metal detector. The small crowd of people had started to gather behind her, not because she was holding up the line, but because they recognized her. She walked to her gate slowly. To others, she must have looked like someone half built with hardwire, her cyan-colored legs taking her for a leisurely stroll. She kept her head up. One step at a time, she made it to her gate. It was time to board. When she reached her seat in the first class, she made eye contact with no one, though she knew all eyes were on her Exos. I did it, she thought. She'd email Hugo to tell him the good news when she got home. He would be confused. He would be shocked. What she didn't know was that she'd been walking through a gate. Didn't know was that as she'd been walking through a gate, a young woman who read her novel 5 times had created a dedicated blog for it, considered herself the authority on all things rusted robots, and said so in our social media bios I've seen her. And immediately this woman had reached for her phone, recorded clear and dynamic footage of Zulu walking on robot legs, and posted it on her blog for her 1 million followers to see. Then she posted a video on all her socials with a caption proclaiming that Zulu was gradually becoming her main character on Korra. As Zulu slept on her flight, the world was speculating vigorously. When the plane landed in Chicago, she turned her phone back on and it buzzed, zinged, whammed, and boomed. "What the fuck?" she whispered. There were texts and messages from her parents and siblings, and she got up in the air in peace and quiet and come down into chaos. Everyone was asking her to call or text them, but no one was explaining why. "What are you doing? Are you alright? Don't you have any sense of privacy?" Hugo had also texted her. It was a gif of an audience giving a standing ovation. Only Tolu had bothered to provide context. He sent a link to the post, and Zulu clicked it open and watched a video of herself taken by some stranger's phone. "Holy shit," she wheezed. She replayed it 5 times. She looked good, walking with confidence almost as solid as Hugo's. Her phone continued to buzz. Her social media handles were getting tagged and quoted over and over again. She clicked open the latest one from some random person. Suhuno00, I have questions. "Fuck your questions," she muttered. "It's my life, my body." The joy she felt watching the video moments ago faded. Now she wanted to cry. Spying eyes and chattering mouths were everywhere, but this wasn't their business. Why hadn't she thought about what would happen when people saw her? Her fault. Stupid, stupid, stupid. She'd been so focused on proving something to herself. Her fault. She hadn't been thinking. Reckless. Zulu rubbed her face. As she moved through the terminal, she focused on her exos and made eye contact with no one. Tolu met her at baggage claim. She'd taken so long that he'd already gotten her 2 suitcases and wheelchair and loaded them all on a cart. He stared at her exos as she slowly walked up to him, his mouth hanging open. She stopped in front of him, and still he did not speak. Finally, he raised his eyes to meet hers. "Fucking amazing," he said. His words took her breath away, and she couldn't hold back her tears. He took her in his arms and hugged her tightly. "You did it." "I did it," she said into his shoulder, leaning on him. "Thanks for picking me up." "Of course. Glad you finally called." "Me too," she agreed, fully meaning it. "Wow," he said, not letting go. "The last time I stood and hugged you was a long time ago. It's so weird." He gently let go of her, and she steadied herself. She noticed Tolu was looking around. "Let's get out of here." She looked around now, too. There were several people staring at them. A security robot had even stopped just behind them. Airport surveillance was interested in her, too. Tolu eyed her dubiously. "You're really okay walking with those things?" She rolled her eyes. "You saw me. I got here, didn't I? Is it hard? Let's just go," she said. She waved a hand near her waist, signaling her legs to walk faster. As they moved, she said, "Just lead the way. Don't talk to me. Need to concentrate." "Okay," he said with a nod. She never tried to walk this fast, but she managed, keeping her balance, moving with the exo's gait. Just as Hugo had taught her, after a few minutes, she fell into a rhythm that was quite similar to when she swam long distances in the ocean, except this time she didn't have the great wisdom of the ocean to buoy her. She was the only one who could stop herself from falling. By the time they reached Tolu's green SUV, she was sweating and feeling more than dizzy. She needed his help getting into the car, and he seemed relieved by this. Once in, he shut the door and spoke her name to deactivate the exos. They collapsed back into a cube-shaped case with a handle that fit into the space behind her feet in the SUV. She laid her head against the headrest and let out a sigh of relief. You are crazy, Tolu said, staring at the cube on the floor. Oh, come on, Tolu. What do you know about it? They didn't implant anything into you, did they? Tolu asked. What? No. It's not connected to your brain? Oh my gosh, she laughed. If I had a chance, I'd... Tolu guffawed loudly. And when strange ideas start popping into your mind and you don't know where they came from, you'll what? She kissed her teeth. Look who's paranoid of technology as he drives his computer-powered car down the highway to work at 80 miles per hour every day. He started the car and began driving. So just a heads up, everyone is waiting for you at home. Zulu groaned. Are you kidding? For this? Why? She could already feel a headache coming on. You know you're all over the internet now, right? You're trending on all social media platforms. Jania's got colleagues asking her questions. But what's gotten even worse, all of her colleagues want details. Only thing that could have made them more rabid is if you were suddenly going to the moon in a great big rocket ship. You're an engineer's wet dream. I had to leave the office early because the partners were asking too many questions. He laughed. We got to circle the wagons thanks to you, woman. When they pulled up to the driveway of her parents' house, the SUV could barely crowd in next to her siblings' cars. As her brother got out and moved to the passenger door, she put her exos back on. Tolu opened the door just as they clicked and clacked into place. Mom's going to throw the Bible at you, he said. Dad is going to have 1,000 questions. She shrugged, moving herself into a position to exit the car. Maybe you should take those off and enter using your chair, he said, looking worried. No, I've gone too far for that. But stay near me with the chair. When I get nervous, they're harder to control, and the slightest push, and I'll fall. As she approached the front door, Tolu pushing her chair behind her, she felt like she was walking to her death. Her hands were clammy in the cool breeze. She felt unsteady, and the more she concentrated, the more her exo started feeling like a moving platform she was sitting on. The last thing she needed was to look wobbly when her family first saw her, but she couldn't help it. Were exos making her too tall? How tall had she been before the accident? She couldn't remember. Oh man, I must look so freakish, she thought, imagining herself as the android in the silent film Metropolis. Her siblings would laugh at her, or even worse, pity her. She could hear them now. They were in the living room, everyone, talking loudly as usual. She unlocked the door and immediately the talking inside ceased. Oh God, she turned the knob. She was inside. Her father was sitting in his armchair, his throne, but as most Igbos will remind people, the Igbos have no kings. Better to call it a chief's seat. Behind him was a shelf of his lush greenhouse plants. The jungle-like colors adding to his commanding presence. Zulu noticed that the plant she'd given to her father when she moved back in was sitting there too, thriving so much that its vines now hung all the way to the carpet. Her mother was on her feet, standing behind his chair. She'd probably been pacing. Shania and Bella were on the couch. Amarachi was sitting on the floor because Shania was braiding her hair. Uzo sat beside her, not looking up from her phone. Shania's older son, Amika, was sitting in the corner, huddled over a tablet. He looked up and dropped it when he saw Zulu walk in. Tolu's wife, Fola Shade, was sitting on a folding chair to her right. Shanir's younger son, Chukwudi, sat on her lap, and he took one look at Zulu and gave her a toothy grin. Zulu focused first on Chukwudi and his childish joy, because everything was about to go very badly. Chukwudi held out a hand and Zulu took it. Fola Shade looked up at Zulu and said nothing. She did not smile either. She stared at her, shocked and bothered. Zulu had always liked Fola Shade, but she didn't at this moment. Zulu held her shoulders back, straightened her spine, and lifted her chin, and she didn't look down. Looking down always fucked with her gait and sent her gravity. The exos would do what they needed to do. She had to believe that with the frantic level of faith in this moment. To fall in front of her family would be the definition of disaster. "Hi everyone," she said, a lump already in her throat. "Shay, tu fia qua?" She heard her father muttered, shrugging her shoulders for emphasis. "I don't know about this. It's a lot for even me." Her oldest sister unleashed the demons first. "Zulu, what's wrong with you? Do you care about this family at all?" "Why would she care?" her mother shrilled. "She had always done what she ever wants. How do you think she fell out of that tree in the first place?" A spear to her heart. She took a step backward, her right leg wobbling. She caught herself, hoping no one noticed. "Oh, Mom, come on," Tola said, coming in behind Zulu. "Seriously?" Her mother looked away, waving a hand as if to dismiss the harshness of her own words. "Can you blame Mom, though?" Amarachi snapped. "You snuck away for a whole month." "Snuck?" Zulu snapped. She had to work to keep her voice down. "I told you where I was going. And again, I'm 35 years old. And you live here," her mother shouted. "This isn't a hotel, and we are your family. You didn't call once. You left no information about where you were. We had to find a professor you worked with ourselves. What if something had happened to you? You can't walk. Jesus, oh." Zulu would have laughed at this if she weren't shaking so much. She grabbed the door frame. "Well, I can now." Shanir jumped up, a cruel smile on her face. She motioned with a hand at the way Zulu was gripping the doorway for support. "That is not walking. That is being dragged around with robot legs like some freak. Like something in a Dr. Seuss book. And now the whole world's seen it and is talking about it. Even in Nigeria." Her mother burst into tears. "Why have you shamed your family? In the face of God." Her father got up, and for one stupid second Zulu thought he might defend her, but he put his arms around his wife, soothing her. "So selfish," Bola said quietly. "Aren't you happy with who you are? Isn't the whole novel thing enough?" Zulu just stood there, tired and shaking. She needed to sit down. No one offered her a seat. No one asked what it had all been like. They were supposed to be happy with the results of her experience. She had been. They could never understand. But after all this, she had wanted her family to approve. "I should have called," she said. "Yeah, I should have," she frowned. She needed to sit down so badly. She didn't have the energy to fight this, to fight them. And they were right, to an extent. Maybe her sudden success and growing independence had upset the balance of the family. She bit her lip and turned to head toward her room. No one stopped her, but she could feel their eyes scrutinizing her every robotic step. When she reached her room, she heard them start talking again. About her. About how the family should handle all the hype and gossip. About the video. About how Zulu looked. About how they would say to the Nigerian community, their friends, their co-workers, Zulu was a shame, a stain, needed to be managed, or the family would look so bad. She shut her bedroom door. Everything in her body wanted to shake itself into into a pile of parts and ash, yet she had not fallen. She was getting good at using the exos, and she hadn't crumbled into a panic attack. No ground was rushing toward her, no racing heart, no foggy mind. War torn, but okay. She exhaled, her eyes falling on a beat-up, well-read advanced copy of Roasted Robots on her desk. It's time to move out. In the morning, she woke up staring at the ceiling. She grabbed her phone, muttering, "Fuck this." She dialed. Before it had fully rung once, Mitzi picked up. "You're home?" he said. "Yeah," she said, suddenly anxious. She hadn't expected him to answer. She missed the sound of his voice. "You're part robot now?" he flatly asked. "Yeah." She laughed. "Yeah. I saw it on social media." He paused. "I wanted to call you. I wanted to call you too. I missed you." His voice was soft but purposeful. "I should have seen you through this, even if it was strange. I'm sorry." Zulu grinned, her heart lifting as relief flooded through her. At least she still had him. "It's not that strange." "Oh, it's strange."